ready for the next round of sessions. So a really warm welcome to AJ Nair, who is going to talk to us about leadership in global project management, inspiring teams for success. So thank you very much, AJ, for being here. Really appreciate and really looking forward to hearing what you have got to say to us today. For those of you who haven't had the pleasure of speaking to AJ, young person, 2022 Young Project Management Award, so well done. He's got 8 years of experience, a really massive call out for saved a company $1 million for his employee through process improvement. AJ's young, enthusiastic, and ready to talk to us all about inspiring teams for success. So take it away, AJ. Thank you again.
Okay, I think I'm back. Right. So, good morning, everyone. What I'm going to be doing in this session is, I'm going to bring in my experience of managing PMOs projects across global teams in the last 8 years, right? And uh, I've had the opportunity of managing a variety of projects, right, from digital transformation, RPA, finance-related projects, operational excellence, so on and so forth for different offices. And I've tried to bring in some of my experiences in managing global teams across different geos into three different interesting theories that I feel are highly relevant, especially for someone who's managing global projects, right? But without much ado, let's quickly dive into why is it that leadership is important, be it managing regional teams or global teams, right? So some really quick statistics, right? Uh, the first one is self-explanatory, and it's pretty much every project manager's nightmare, right? Scope creep is kind of that word that haunts us in our dreams, right? No project manager wants to hear it. So an interesting insight, and even I was surprised a bit to hear this, is 52% of projects experience scope creep in one way or other, right? That's a starking revelation right there. What's even more surprising is there was another survey by a consulting firm, and 60% of the CXOs felt that projects typically fail or do not deliver value as it was expected initially from the project. Right? That's another really interesting fact coming in. And the last one was from the same set of CXOs, they also felt 70% of the failure can be attributed to poor project leadership, right? Now, that's the one that I want to be focusing mostly on, the 70% failure attribution to poor leadership. And this is why I feel leadership becomes important, right? I think as a community, we've all been dwelling about being a great project manager, being a great, PMO manager, right? But the one thing that I feel we need to start shifting our perspective into is there's no such thing as a project manager in today's day and time. If you're leading global projects, if you're leading digital projects, there's no such thing as being a project manager. All of us are project leaders, right? There are certain leadership qualities expected from each project manager, in turn, expecting them to be a project leader, right? So what is a leader, right? Again, very generic slide, but different definitions out there. Someone who can lead, someone who can align the team, someone who is trustworthy, someone who can give you a shared vision, someone who people like to follow. Multiple different kind of attributes or definitions of a leader. But what I did is I went in a step further, and I kind of went through years of research papers, published by different agencies, different institutes, etc. And from my research, these were the top 5 attributes that define a good leader. Now, this is irrespective of project management, irrespective of any field. What research says is these are top 5 attributes of a good leader, right? Emotional intelligence, no surprises over there. In fact, what I wanted to bring in was a very interesting insight, which says 71% of hiring managers value emotional intelligence over IQ. So that should tell you how important that is. Communication skills, no brainer. One aspect of being a great leader is also being a great communicator, right? Traditionally, if you look at all leaders, be it in the political arena or elsewhere, you would realize that these leaders are really good in talking, are really good in convincing, and are really good in kind of, bringing people together through their communication skill. Uh, Third one, and I see someone mentioning authenticity, right, which kind of ties down to trustworthiness as well. The more authentic you are, the more trustworthy you are, right? So trustworthiness, able to engage, coaching and feedback. So these were the top 5 attributes that I found to be, to be kind of attributing a good leader. Now the question here is, how do you build these 5 attributes, right? And there's a very interesting thing that I did. I tried asking the same question uh, to a couple of chat gpt based models, right? Because that's kind of your internet summed up. And even if you talk to some of your leaders in the community, other project leaders, these are the kind of answers that you would expect, right? How to be a good project leader. Mostly the answers revolved around these 7 to 10 factors, where people tell you, hey, you need to set clear expectations, you need to be leading by example, build trust, provide mentorship, encourage collaboration, appreciate team efforts, solve conflicts, so on and so forth, right? But I'm fairly confident that at least 90% of you, when you ask anyone within our community, hey, how can I be a good leader? The points usually tie down to one of these points, right? Which is lead by example, give mentorship, and what I have felt over years of again experience, and again I had the privilege of working with some of the great leaders in the industry, is while these are good answers, these are generic, right? For someone who's had decent amount of years of experience in the project management space, most of these are no-brainers, right? You know that, hey, I as a project manager, I need to set clear expectations, I need to lead by example, I need to encourage collaboration, so on and so forth, right? So these are what I felt are generic answers. So I'll be digressing from those, right? I'm not going to be focusing on these. Instead, what we will do is we're going to learn about global leadership, kind of from 3 theories that I felt are very much relevant for someone who's managing project management across multiple geos. Now, of course, these theories also apply to regional leadership, but as I said, I just felt that these are more relevant if you're managing remote teams, if you're managing teams that are based from different cultures, different geos, so on and so forth, right? So we'll start off with the first one, which is giving feedbacks the right way. Why did I feel that was important before even we get into the first theory, right? From my experience, and I'm based out of India. I've had the privilege of managing teams in US, in Europe, in Korea, so on and so forth, right? Some of the project managers that I used to work with were always a bit hesitant to give feedback to their counterparts in a different geo, right? Questions pop up in your mind saying, hey, I don't really know how the culture works there. I don't know if they would get offended. What words should I be using? I don't really know, because, in your culture, in your org, in your geo, things might work a certain way. You might expect a blunt feedback, for example. Whereas, someone who's thousands of miles away might not really take it the right way. So if you're a project manager, if you're a project leader who's managing people in different geos, I'm very sure you would have thought of, hey, how do I give the right feedback to my team who's completely from a different culture? And what I realized is a very interesting theory that most oftenly works for everyone, right? And that's called the sandwich feedback, right? Or the feedback sandwich. Now, feedback sandwich essentially is taking your feedback or your constructive criticism and sandwiching it between two really positive comments, right? So, what it basically means is instead of you going and starting to critique your team, start off with the first layer of the sandwich, which is a very positive comment, right? followed by a constructive feedback, and then a closing reaffirming positive comment again, right? So that's what we call a feedback sandwich. And irrespective of what geo the person belongs to, irrespective of what the culture looks like, more often than not, this theory works. Tried and tested myself personally, worked for me, but try it out yourself and see if it works for you as well. But this has really worked wonders for me when I was managing multi geo projects, on how I could give feedback to someone who's from a different culture altogether, right? So let's take an example, right? Let's put this in action. Imagine you have a team member who's in a whole different geo, who's working remotely. She's been or he's been missing deadlines on her tasks. Now, there's one way I would have done it in the past before I get to know, or before I got to know about this feedback theory. I would have just told the person, hey, you know what? I see you've been missing consistently on your work packages. Is there something wrong? What's going on? You need to speed things up, because that's how things worked in my team, which was based regionally, in the same building. I would have just walked over to them and given that feedback. However, I realized if I use this technique, I could change it up a bit to make it positive, yet be constructively giving them a feedback the right way. So the way it would work is you would start with a positive opening, right, which is the first loaf of bread, saying something really positive about the person. Now, the way you could start is, hey, your insights have been really great in our meetings. Although I have realized you've missed, a few timelines on your work packages. I'm sure it's not really a big deal, but if we can speed things up, that would be great. That being said, you've been doing great this past week. I see you've been contributing to ideas. Just make sure you keep doing that. Let's collaborate more, etc., etc., right? So what I've essentially done is I've just it's like a mother or a father or a parent kind of sneaking in a piece of veggie in a sandwich, right? So you're kind of sneaking in that constructive feedback between two really positive comments, right? And more often than not, as I said, it works for a cross country team, especially if you're not really aware of the culture or the team dynamics in that particular geo, right? Right. The next one, which is again very interesting, is the over justification effect. And this is especially for those project managers who are more people focused, which we all should be, rightfully so. But more often than not, I've seen project managers take a blanket, kind of approach when it comes to rewarding or recognizing their team, right? And I'll take one example. When I was managing a global project, what I did was I said to my management, or rather my sponsor, that hey, can we get Amazon vouchers for everyone that's doing great? Well, I realized that not everyone would like it, right? So let's take this with an example. There's a member of my team, Sarah. She loves creating visuals, right? She's a designer. She's good at it. She loves doing it. And what I did is I created a program which says Designer of the Month, and whoever wins that award would get a cash prize. What I have essentially done by doing that is I have shifted Sarah's motivation from intrinsic to extrinsic, right? So earlier, Sarah was more focused on the satisfaction that she got from doing her job, which was, she just loved making designs. But now that I have gamified the approach, I've told everyone that, hey, there's cash prize attached to it. I have shifted her motivation from intrinsic to extrinsic, right? She's no longer worried about the satisfaction that she got from making cool designs. Now she's more worried about getting the cash prize. So you're shifting the ecosystem there of rewards and recognition, and this is really, really important for a global team, because in different cultures, recognition means something different entirely, right? So really quickly, how can you balance this, right? Try and figure out what is that intrinsic value that works for different teams. For one of my teams, more than the cash prizes, the awards, what I did once was I actually bought a few really cool books that I felt could help the team. And I got some of my really senior leaders to write a small note on a post-it pad and paste it within a few pages of the books, right? Uh, and it's been a year since I did that, and my team members still get back to me saying, "Hey, we keep finding these post-it notes between the pages of the books from some of our senior leaders, and they absolutely love it." Right? So I've realized the intrinsic value there was getting recognition from senior leadership, and instead of doing something else entirely, we try and shift back to what really matters to a global team, right? So the last bit that I want to share about is sharing the bigger picture, and this is more general to everyone who's attending the conference. I think as a project manager or as a project leader, what we're not doing uh, a good job at is sharing the bigger picture with our team consistently, time and again. Right? Let me take an example. When I took over a project which was fairly critical for our organization, uh, I realized the earlier project manager used to share the bigger picture in this sense, right? He used to say to my developer, "Hey, you know what? You are doing a great job. You're actually creating this software, and this software is going to really help our clients." And that's how the project manager used to share the bigger picture. But I realized that's not just it, right? It's not just about creating a piece of software. The software that we were creating was the first in industry, was actually one of the first kind of softwares in not just in India but globally as well. So what I did was I told this developer guy, "Hey, you know what? It's not just about you creating this piece of software. Even 10 years down the line, if you move to a different firm, if you move to a different industry, this software would still have your legacy, right? 20 years down the line, if this software becomes big, if it gets acquired, you would still be able to tell your grandchildren that, hey, I worked on this piece of software." And when I did this time and again over an iteration phase of months and months, and I kept adding on to it, it really boosted the team camaraderie, right? Now, be it a regional team or a global team, this always works. You really need to help your team understand how they are contributing to a project, but not at a transactional level, at a strategy level. Why is it that the work they are doing is important? How does it tie up to the big picture? Is it just about delivering a work package, or how does that work package fit into the bigger picture? Right. And as I said, as project managers, we need to keep doing more and more of it at a more strategic level than a transactional level. Right. So just to kind of sum things up, we talked about three different techniques or theories. The first one is the sandwich feedback technique, right? Great to give constructive feedback to all your team members, irrespective of where they are. You have a constructive feedback right in the middle. Think of it as sneaking that piece of broccoli in the salad, which is sandwiched between two really positive feedbacks. The over justification effect, which basically means you as a project manager need to understand what is the intrinsic factor for each of your regional teams, right? What drives that team culturally, locally? Is it just going to be cash rewards? Is it recognition? Is it promotion? Is it more visibility? Is it more learning, right? Don't try and shift the intrinsic motivation to an extrinsic one. And we often try and do that. And the third one is help your team understand the larger vision. And I'm going to stress on this one more time. You cannot do it enough, right? Keep doing it time and again. Keep telling your team why their work is important. Because trust me, folks, project management starts with people management, right? They might not really report into you, but they definitely look up to you, right? So keep sharing those visions about how their work fits into the larger picture. And I'm sure by at least following these three quick tips, you should see some traction on how you manage the team, and see that boost coming in irrespective of where they are situated. But yeah.
Wow, thank you, AJ. That's amazing. And we were sitting here, and that feedback sandwich. And first of all, we were having a bit of, oh, now I feel a bit hungry too. But it's such a key takeaway and a really powerful tool that we can always reach back into and use that. So really good insights. There's when you were talking about your different communication style, and I've got a question, if that's all right for you, about, and especially in the global space. You've spoke about how you had another project manager in before, and they'd set up a cadence of how they were going to communicate, and that you had to come in and sort of rechange things. So I just wanted to know, just to dive a bit deeper into that one, and about your personal story in that, and how you were able to positively influence the rest of the team that had already been set up in a communication style. And so you, as the new leader coming in, what were you able to bring to that?
Right. But no, that's a very interesting question, Julie. Uh, so one of the things that I'm a strong believer of, Julie, as a project leader, is offline conversations, right? Which is having conversations with my team, but not about work. And I spent as much time on that as I would do on project communications. Because the more time you spend understanding your team, it's not like you're getting away from work, but I'm a strong believer that the more you understand your team, the more you're able to figure out what works for them, right? So one of the things I changed was a casual connects with my team, right? Uh, as soon as I jumped in, before me getting to tell the team that, hey, these are the things that you're going to start working with, my first aim was to understand, hey, we have this project and I need to make this success, but tell me, how can I make you successful in this team, right?
Yeah.
How can I get you to move from point A to B? What is it that drives you? Is it going to be recognition? Is it going to be learning? And I got different answers, right? For some people, it was, hey, you know what? This sponsor does not even know my name. I just need to be, visible out there. For others, it was, hey, I've been trying to get this approval for a learning program. If you could just nudge that, right? So I always start by knowing my people and then my project. And I think that's when a shift when it comes to communication, that's kind of my style. I'm not saying it works for everyone, but that's one thing that I did.
Well, I was going to say, it certainly aligns with what what our panel was talking about in regards to the even the ugly mug story, about how you have to resonate with people, and as you're saying, get that connection happening. And I like that it's not just about what are going to do with the project. It's, I need to get to know my people, because it's the people are the ones that will make it successful or not for us. So I think that's a really good insight. Another point that I wanted to just touch base with too. We're in the global is the norm now, and offline. And part of our emerging trends is that will we all be back in the office together? And the answer is probably a resounding no. We'll have global challenges, and for some people that this is a new thing for them. We've come out of the COVID era. Fingers crossed we never go back there. So we are going to be having to deal on more of a global scale. So, and it's been interesting. What's the different communication challenges that you've had in managing in this global space, if you'd like to share them?
Yeah, I mean, the first one obviously is on a much lighter note, is, are you able to hear me, right? I mean, we're all just used to starting out with that these days. Uh, but if I talk about communication challenges more on a global front, I remember, and I'll take an example from when I started off managing a few projects in the US, right? Because I was fairly new to the US culture and I've never been there. It was really hard for me to connect with the team. Like, for example, if let's say there's a large status meeting and it's just three of us on the meeting waiting for others to join in, you need to fill in that gap, right? You need to fill in that dead silence. If it was my regional team, I know I could talk about cricket. Cricket's crazy in India, right? I mean, I could talk about cricket. I could talk about what's happening in India. Uh, but with my US counterparts, I was always, worried about maybe picking the wrong subject, about not really picking up the right, or maybe picking up a simple topic. Exactly, right? So over time, I've realized that there are a few subjects which works across cultures, right? Like the weather, sports. I mean,
Yes.
so yeah, one challenge that I faced initially managing global projects was figuring out how to fill in those dead silences, and
Mhm.
always being worried about picking the wrong subject. But as I said, over time I realized that irrespective of what culture people belong to, there are a few topics that you can touch without hesitating.
Mm.
My only advice to the team here would be figure out what those topics are. Right, for me it was the weather, for me it was sports, for me it was cars as well at times. But I'm very sure there are those pockets of divisions which you can figure out that would work
Mm.
anywhere.
Mm. No, that's really good insights. And I'd like to just also say that we're a bit we like our cricket in Australia too. So if you ever want to talk to the cricket, you want to talk about cricket, I'm sure you can come to us. AJ, thank you so much. We're out of time now. It's been and you put your hand up to be on this event. It's been fabulous, really insightful. Congratulations again on your award. It's really good topic conversation. We've very much enjoyed having you here, and please stick around for the rest of the afternoon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julie, and everyone I think who engaged. It was a pleasure, and hoping to see you next year.
And I guess the one is, is there any other questions from the floor for AJ? And there hasn't come up yet, so I will we can close off the session. So thanks again. For everyone here, please take the opportunity to go to the booths. Remember, we have our sponsors there, so really appreciate even just to drop in and say hello and see what they're on about. So that's Keyed In, Sana, and Planisware. So thank you all. We have a 45-minute break. We enjoy your lunch. We will also come back with. Sorry, I've got to do this because unfortunately my glasses decided not to work on me today. So we have Maria coming back on after our lunch break, and she'll be talking to us. She's from Singapore. She'll be talking to us about intelligence and effective decision making for PMO and projects performance in the age of AI. So Maria first and come back. Please go and see those booths. Have a great break. See you soon in 45 minutes. Thank you, everyone.